Welcome to the Top Secret Wedding Podcast. And today's quick tip is if you want to get good at something, find someone who's already good at it and just copy what they do.
Yep. Okay.
Pretty simple.
Let's go ahead and get into it.
Let's get into it. This is the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, where we share top secret tips to help you take your wedding game to the next level.
I'm Annika, and I'm a wedding coordinator, enthusiast, and venue manager for one of the best venues in Idaho.
I'm Chris, and I'm a DJ, master of ceremonies, and all-around lover of weddings.
We're on a mission to improve weddings and wedding professionals everywhere.
So today's topic is...
community over competition.
Community over competition.
Yeah.
What's the overarching principle that you would say that, how would you define that?
How would I define that?
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, I think it's ultimately just working together with those in the community. You know, it's not everyone's your competition, but just having that mentality of, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Little High School Musical moment.
Okay. We'll overlay that. That's good. So in my mind, let's break it down into a couple different things. Why we should have community over competition, how we do that, and then maybe some do's or don'ts at the end. So why should we have community over competition? In my mind, we all got into this, hopefully, because we want to make a couple's day, right?
Yeah.
We want to help make memories. For me, the money is not my number one. The money's good, but that's not, at the end of the night, that's not what I think about when I go home.
Totally, yeah. I mean, if you're in it just for the money, there's a million other ways you could just make money. But I think we're in this industry for something greater than just the money.
Right. So if that's our purpose is helping to make memories, then the best way to do that is with a team. One of my favorite things is when I am asking my client, okay, who's your photographer? Oh, you got this photographer? Oh, I love working with her.
I love building clients.
What's your venue? Oh, LaBelle Lake. I love LaBelle Lake. Who's your food? Dave? Oh, awesome. Like, it just, when you have this team that works together, you can do things that you can't do at other weddings.
Totally. Well, and kind of just going off of what you said too, when you are excited about who they've booked, it validates the client and they're like, oh, that's good to hear. Like, I know this, like, oh, he's excited about Dave. I'm excited about Dave.
Right.
If he's had a lot of other caterers food before and he's excited about Dave, it just validates that decision that they've made.
100%. Yeah. I think that there's, the only reason to not work as a community is, I don't know, ego.
Yeah, really. That's really it.
Yeah, I guess there's the argument that could be made that not just ego, but money. That's the competition side of it, right? I don't want to give up my market share. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, not everyone is my client. I don't want everybody to be my client.
Oh, 1,000%. I think everyone has their ideal client, and like my ideal client will look different than other vendors' ideal client. Yeah. So. Yeah,
100%. And for me, that's where referrals come in, right? So if not everyone's your client, hopefully you know your community well enough that you can refer them to somebody like, oh, you want this type of music. This guy's going to do way better for you as a DJ than I will. I'm just not good at that, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even like we'll have people who come and tour with us and they're saying, okay, this is what I'm wanting. And it doesn't align with what LaBelle Lake offers. But having that community and knowing, hey, well, this vendor over here, they sound like a perfect match for your vision. Let me refer you over to them.
What are the things that you typically send people elsewhere? Like, what are the visions that people have that you're like, that doesn't quite fit with us?
So LaBelle Lake's an outdoor venue. So usually right off the bat, if they're really hesitant about having an outdoor wedding, LaBelle Lake's probably not the best fit for that. You know, so if they are like, oh, well, a big one is the glitz and glam. So if someone is really wanting, you know, a ballroom, glitz, glamour, indoor temperature controlled. Like,
Sure.
that's not LaBelle Lake, you know? And so we'll refer them elsewhere. Another one that we will refer to, honestly, the number one is if they're wanting a late wedding. So if they're wanting the party to continue until midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., we cannot provide that service. And so if we can't provide that and that's extremely important to them, it's not going to be a good fit. They're going to be let down and disappointed. So then we will refer them to other venues.
Can you do it inside if they want to do it late? Would you?
So they can move inside. The tricky thing is like anyone not spending the night needs to be gone by 11 p.m. for liability.
Gotcha.
So it can turn into like an indoor after party.
Yeah.
But only for like the guests spending the night.
That makes sense.
So
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and there's a little bit of, people can create that kind of glitz and glam feeling outdoors, but there's only so much you can do.
Exactly. I mean, we have had a lot of clients who are like, well, my family grew up in Rigby, and so this is the ideal location, and I want this glitz and glam, and they bring in a lot of stuff, and it is stunning and beautiful. So there's a way to make it happen, but it just depends what their most important priority is.
Totally. Yeah. And there's always the weather. You never know.
Always the weather. Yep.
We had that wedding on Friday that
got
rained out.
Literally. Yeah. Chris is like, oh, what are the odds it's going to rain? And I'm like, I think you'd be okay to take your tent down. Yeah. No, it rains.
It rained. It rained really hard. It was good. I actually thought it was a good ending. But okay, so I talked a little bit about referrals. So a few weeks ago, the busiest day of the year for us was 9/17. Mm-hmm. By far, we probably sent away 20 plus couples on that day. The next weekend, 9/24, was pretty busy as well, but 9/17 was just crazy. And so I don't remember if it was 9/17 or 9/24, but one of my DJs said, hey, I've got a family emergency and I can't make it.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, no. And we were already short that day anyways. So luckily, I've actively tried to reach out to the other DJs in the area. Some are more receptive, some are less receptive. But luckily, I was able to reach out and say, do you have anybody? And they had somebody.
Oh, nice.
If I was enemies with them, they would not have helped me. So, I mean, I was really up a creek without a paddle, and they helped me out. And had I had the competition over community mentality, that wouldn't have happened. So it's just in your best interest to put community first. So
1,000%.
Yeah. The other thing I'd mention is raising the bar. So if everybody's working independently and not coming together, I feel like there's a lot of exchange of ideas that's lost. And I know that sometimes people are afraid of sharing their ideas with other professionals that are working in the same exact field as they are. But I feel like that's the only way that you can really raise the bar. Maybe not the only way, but that's a really good way to raise the bar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you network with any other venues in the area?
I could definitely be better about it, but I do have a little bit of networking in the area with venues.
Yeah.
So I definitely network with vendors in the area. But yeah.
Yeah. Because there are things that I've seen, for me, I've seen other DJs and other coordinators do that I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And there's sometimes that I see those things and I'm like, oh, if we did this, it'd be even better. So it's just good to network with those people and understand what they do so that you can hopefully beat them. But yeah, maybe that's a competition over community viewpoint. But let's talk about how we accomplish that community, that sense of community. Yeah, still recording. Okay. Networking. Yeah. Do you actively network? Like, what do you...
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like networking is one of those things, I don't know if you feel the same, but all throughout my high school and college, everyone was like, oh, you have to network. You have to network. And I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, okay, network. How do you network? What does that mean? Right. But I do feel like it's something that just, if you naturally are friendly and talk to people, you will naturally start networking. With that, I do think networking is huge. Like I swear my life motto is like life's all about who you know.
Yeah.
So networking, getting to know people. I still don't know if I can really answer how I network.
Yeah.
But I mean, just being friendly and being out there and talking to people. Like whenever we have, it's a wedding day, we're at the lodge and a new vendor comes up right off the bat, like, hi, I'm Annika. Like, this is me. Who are you? And showing that interest in them.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, you're going to network. You're going to make a friend. And it comes in handy.
Yeah. I like the phrase, be interested instead of interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I would much rather talk to somebody that is really interested in what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
totally.
If
totally.
I can be interested in what other people are doing and not just pretend, like genuinely be interested in what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
that's only good for, I think, both parties.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think that's a good point, because I do feel like, myself included, I feel like in this industry we get into the habit of like, my job is so cool. I'm such an interesting person. Like, I want to talk about myself.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that with other vendors of like, oh, well, I'm so cool. I'm going to talk about myself. And so I love that quote of be interested instead of interesting.
Yeah. I think there's a point where, like, nobody wants to be interrogated and just asked question.
Yeah.
Like, there should be some dialogue and say, well, this is something interesting that I'm doing, but, and I guess that just takes practice in figuring out how much to tell what you do and how much to ask what they do. But I think if you're genuinely interested in what somebody's doing, you're naturally going to be sharing things that you're doing on top of that.
Agreed.
So
totally agreed.
Yeah. Networking at every possibility. I remember, when I first started in this area, I would just go to venues. Like when I saw a venue was opened, I would go just like knock on their door, like, hey, what's up? I'm Chris. And I think probably they were weirded out, but I made sure to dress nice. And now I have relationships with a lot of those people because they knew who I was before the wedding. And then at the wedding, they saw what I was able to do. And so because of those two things, it created and established that relationship as opposed to them just seeing me at a wedding. I think reaching out proactively and saying, this is who I am. What are you guys doing? I think it can be valuable in establishing that relationship instead of just hoping that people will naturally see how amazing you are at a wedding and just want to flock to your website. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You got to put yourself out there, and that's difficult.
Oh, yeah. I think with networking too, it's so important to always have a business card on you. Like, you never know where you're going to run into someone or meet them. And so just having a business card handy is game changing. Have
you tried any of those business cards that are, they're like you like tap your phone on it?
No, I haven't seen those.
So I've tried it, and it doesn't work very good.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to like make sure that the security settings on their phone but it's pretty cool because when it is set up correctly, you just tap your phone on it and your contact is put into their phone.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you can send them to like a link tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that they can like go to your website, whatever. So it is cool, but it just in practice it doesn't work very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, business cards.
Business cards.
Important. And I generally don't know that I look at people's business cards. I try and establish enough of a conversation with somebody that I don't really need their business card.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, to have a business card, you never know where that's going to come back.
It's true. Exactly. Well, even just on the marketing side of it, I mean, like whenever I go to a conference or anything, I have my business card. When they hear about our venue and they're like a wedding planner and they're like, oh, I always have clients looking for venues up in that area.
That have goats.
That have goats and ducks and everything. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, here's my business card. And not only is that referencing me, but it's referencing my venue. And so it's getting your venue name out there.
Totally.
Even more. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about shadowing for community over competition. So I think the people that are best at this are photographers.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're always shadowing each other. And some some photographers, they have like those programs where like you can mentor them or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if it's just working as a second shooter, I think it's valuable to see somebody doing what they know how to do, and it not be your first time doing the wedding. You know what I mean?
Totally. I think a little bit different, but kind of related with shadowing. I think my venue provides a little bit of a shadowing opportunity with our internship program. And
talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I developed an internship program with our venue, and it's my pride and joy.
Yeah.
But we bring in about 2 to 3 interns a semester, and we just teach them the ropes of how, like, what the industry is like. Yeah. I feel like the wedding and event industry is often glamorized, and you always get students that are like, oh, well, I've seen 27 dresses, and I want to be her. I want to be that at the wedding helping. And it's like, okay, well, that's very glamorized. Like, right. First of all, she's a bridesmaid, not a professional. Yeah. But then they see the wedding planner and stuff like that. And so our internship program has been very enlightening to our interns to teach them what the industry is actually like and what it's actually like to work in weddings and what a day actually looks like. It's not just standing there with the clipboard and the headset being J-Lo giving orders. Yeah. Like, that's not all it is. It's so much more than that.
Rarely that.
Yeah, rarely that. Yeah. Exactly. But providing that opportunity to the community to help give them insight on what actually goes on.
And you've found, like, from that pool, you found people to work for you, too.
Oh, yeah. Actually, pretty much almost everyone who works for us now was an intern at one point. Yeah. There's definitely pros in having seen how they work and seeing how they handle stressful long days to then hire them in. It's been very effective for us.
Because you can find out very quickly if they're not willing to work hard.
Exactly. You find out very quickly what their work attitude is and what their life attitude is. I am very I do not like a negative Nancy at all. Mm-mm. And you find out very quickly what their attitude is. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's pretty. I wish I could do that for DJs. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we do that, but yeah. So I'm jealous of that. But I think, for anybody starting out, having some sort of internship. I wish that during college I would have understood what an internship was really for, because when I went to school for public relations, and I graduated. And then I got a couple of jobs in the public relations space, and I hated it.
Really?
I hated it. Mm-hmm. I did intern at a wedding venue, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the Atrium.
Oh, cool.
And the job that they had me do was more public relations facing, so I wasn't, didn't understand what they did. But if I had understood that, I probably would have done more internships. Yeah. Because you don't really know what the job is until you do it.
Exactly.
You can study it in a book all you want, in a classroom all you want, but until you do it, So I wish I would have known that and taken more internships. I mean, I'm glad I am where I am.
For sure. Well, and I mean, one piece of advice I always give students or anybody is if they have an interest in events, one, they need to do an internship in any event to know if it's actually for them. Yeah. Because it is often so different than what they think it is. But then also, if you have the time to do multiple internships, I highly encourage doing one in special events and weddings, one in community, one in corporate. Find out what niche of events you like, because they're all so different.
Yeah. So that's so true. That's so true. When I first started DJing, I was 16, 15, I don't know. I was young. And luckily I had somebody that I was able to shadow to learn this is how you're supposed to do weddings.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really valuable thing, because I can only imagine an 18-year-old kid saying, I'm going to DJ somebody's wedding, and all of the things that they don't know. Yeah. Right? All the things they could screw up. And to me, that's really scary. So if you're able to, instead of practice on a couple, if you're able to just learn from somebody else, it's so much better. So And if you see somebody, that was our tip today, but if you see somebody that does something really, really well, call them up and say, can I interview you? Can I learn from you?
Exactly.
And I mean, if you flatter somebody, like generally they're going to be like, oh, well, let me share my brilliance with you.
Exactly.
So that's the other thing is don't be afraid to just reach out to somebody. It's surprising how accessible some of these really important people are.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. Okay. How else? Community over competition. So referring clients is another way to show that the community is more important than your competition.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that do you refer to specific venues?
Yeah, we will refer to specific venues. Usually I have a pretty good sense of like, oh, well, you're wanting this is a good venue.
Sure.
We don't necessarily like to just blindly refer because we don't want to send our clients on a turnaround and, oh, well, they referred me here, but they don't do this well or whatever that is,
Yeah, I generally like to call the person I'm referring them to and make sure that they're available. Make sure it's a good fit. So that way, I mean, it's kind of like when you call customer service, instead of them just transferring you, it's them like, let me get them on the line for you real quick. And then they do the handoff that way. And it's just so much better. At the level that we're trying to do weddings, I feel like that even if they're not your client, providing really good customer service, I think is important because it goes back to that base reason why we got into weddings. It wasn't to make money, it was to provide a good experience. So
exactly. Well, and I think then it taps back into that it's all who you know. So like even if this client didn't work out for you, you don't know who they know. And so if you still provide them a great experience, even if they're not booking with you.
That's true.
Like, for all you know, they're going to be like, hey, like, oh, my cousin's getting married. Well, we talked with this guy, Chris. He wasn't available, but he was amazing. And you never know who people know.
Dude, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I don't know that I've ever had that happen.
Maybe I have. I have 1,000%. I've had people who like really wanted to book with us. Their date wasn't available, so they had to book elsewhere. But then they have family or friends looking, and they're like, this was our dream venue. You have to look into it. And we've had bookings because of it.
Maybe I need to work harder. That's cool, though. Okay. The next thing that this is my personal view on it, but I don't think you should expect kickbacks.
Yeah.
Unless you have a specific business relationship with someone where that's the idea. I think generally you shouldn't expect kickbacks for sending clients
I agree.
to somebody.
I've definitely messed with both ways of like having kickbacks and not. And I feel like, again, just tying it into that community over competition, I want to refer who I want to refer. If I think like this one caterer is phenomenal, I want to just tell the client that and be like, hey, this guy's amazing. And I shouldn't be expecting anything in return for that because I genuinely want to, yes, help and support their business, but I want what's best for the client, Right. I'm not going to refer like, oh, well, if I refer to this caterer instead of this one, I get a kickback. So I'm going to refer to the one that I get a kickback. Like that's just, I don't know. I don't jive with that very well.
Yeah, I think it's like a side revenue that people are thinking like, oh, maybe I can make money from referrals. But in my opinion, I think you're going to get higher quality clients, meaning that you can charge a higher rate if you have a better service and you're referring to better people, right? Like, because if you're just referring out to the highest bidder, there's no promise of quality there.
Exactly.
And so that could earn you a bad review.
Yeah.
So, I think, I don't know. Well,
and I feel like I've noticed with our clients, they take who we refer as like gold. They're like, oh,
right.
If they're referring them, then this is gold. And so if what you're referring isn't actually gold, it's just going to come back to you.
That's true.
So.
Yeah. And then they don't trust you.
Exactly. Yeah. You lose that trust if suddenly who you have referred is
no good.
Then then point. Why would they trust you?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Also, I've never really done this, but masterminds. Have you ever done a mastermind?
I don't know what that is.
So mastermind is basically where you get together and you discuss a topic.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the basic idea. And hopefully you have some people that are authorities on the subject. But yeah, you just get together and you say, ceremonies. How do we improve ceremonies. Here are the things that I'm doing. Other people share what they're doing.
I like that.
So maybe we should try and put that together.
That would
for
be
this
really
area.
rad. That'd
Yeah.
be rad for this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's another way to learn. There's a guy that I follow, Brian B, and he goes to this event called Engage.
Okay.
And it's like,
is that the one that's like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really expensive.
Like,
And like, if you look up pictures of it, it's just
so dreamy.
bougie
Yeah.
upon bougie. It's crazy. But he shared with me, I had lunch with him a few weeks ago, or breakfast. Anyways, and I asked him about that, and he said, it took me like 5 or 6 times going to this conference before people started trusting me that I
Really?
was there to stick around and I was providing that kind of service.
Wow.
So, and they do a lot of kind of mastermind things there. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Also paying for services. Like if you need headshots, don't expect a photographer
Yeah.
that works at your venue all the time to just do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they may be willing to do it,
Yeah.
but they'd be much happier with you if you paid them.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and I think, I think it's so critical of like, it's all who you know, but it's not abusing who you know and being like, oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm
it's true.
friends with this photographer. They're my friend. They're just going to do it for free. Like, don't abuse the friendship,
Yeah.
So,
There's a guy, Randy Bartlett. He's not really in this space anymore, but he was a DJ and educator for a long time. And I heard him say one of the most brilliant ways to avoid somebody asking for a discount when they're your friend.
mhm.
So if they ask, or before you even give them the price, you say, listen, and I'm not going to take advantage of our relationship and charge you more just because like we're friends.
Yeah.
Like I'll just charge you the same price that I charge everybody else. So then how are they going to, ask for a discount
Yeah,
after that?
Exactly.
So, yeah, just pay for services, pay what they're worth, and maybe they'll give you a discount, but
Yeah.
don't ask for it.
But yeah, exactly. Don't ask for it. And I feel like it always works out so much better in the long run if you're not expecting it
Yeah.
than if you're like expecting it. I know if someone comes to me and they're like, it's low key a pet peeve of mine when people are like, oh, you do this. Well, can I get this? Like, I hate that because then it just feels, I lose that trust. I feel like, well, are you actually my friend or are you just trying to abuse my power?
Right.
But if someone isn't abusing my power and they're just like, oh, let's do this, I always am so much more willing for me to offer some kind of discount than them ask for a discount. As soon as someone
Yes.
asks for a discount, it just puts a
Nope.
sour taste in my mouth and I'm like, nope, not happening.
Yeah.
So
And from the other side, you don't want to give a discount because then they don't value what you really bring.
yeah, I feel like almost every time that we have offered discounts, it comes back and bites us. in the
Yeah.
butt. It's so true.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm trying to find a podcast because the next point I had on here was playing nice at venue or at events with other vendors. And so there's a podcast by Alan Berg not too long ago on September 13th, 2022. Are you playing nice with the other vendors, other wedding event pros? Man, that's the easiest way to put a bad taste in somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
Is not playing nice.
Yeah, not playing nice.
It's happened.
Oh, totally.
And it's really a shame. The only time you can do that is if you're like number one in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then you shouldn't do it. But you can
Right.
usually get away with it because if you're that good, then
Right.
people will hire you anyways. But it'll just make your job easier though.
It will. Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about what not to do?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what not to do. So,
I think don't share your secret sauce. I mean, obviously there are things that that you do that other people don't do, and I mean maybe share most of it. But the thing for me, the thing that people say, "Wow, that was amazing! I've never seen anybody do that." Don't share that one.
exactly.
People will probably figure it out anyways.
Totally.
Probably
Yeah.
hear about it, but I don't think you need to share your secret sauce.
Mhm.
Unless somebody pays for it, maybe. If you're
Yeah.
doing like a mentorship kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, you can use your own discretion on when to share your secret sauce.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if it's secret,
Right.
protect it, I guess
Yeah.
is what we're trying to say. But
I don't mind sharing it with people that are outside of my immediate service area.
for sure.
I'm fine sharing it with people like in Utah or California
Mhm.
because, I mean, if they do it, it's not going to really bother me. But yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Trash talk.
Dude, I could talk about not trash talking
Yeah.
all day long. I hate trash talk. So definitely don't trash talk.
So, okay, then here's the question. How
Yeah.
do you tell clients when they say we've hired this person? How do you tell them bad idea without telling them bad idea?
So, in my opinion, first of all, if they've already hired them,
Yeah. Okay.
deal's done.
Right,
you know,
right.
there's no
Yeah.
reason to suddenly make them panic or
Yeah.
anything. So, but if they are considering hiring somebody, I try to stay very neutral and just provide facts. No opinions. For example, hey, so and so hire or they're looking into hiring this caterer.
Okay.
Okay. You know, oh, that's great to hear. Glad to hear they're available or something like that. You know,
Okay.
you want to start with the
Yeah,
fluff.
yeah, that's good.
I would always then say, like, in my experience working with them, they were not on time.
Okay.
There's no opinion of, oh, they should have been there early and they weren't, or, oh, they were nowhere to be found, or just keep it simple and the fact. You know, in my experience, in previous weddings we've had them at, they did not arrive on time. The food was not ready when the client had asked it to be ready. That's what I have found is just keep it simple and
because they'll read into that.
Because they'll read into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and yeah, I cannot stand trash talking.
Yeah, and I think it says something about who you are as a person when they're asking about somebody, and if you're very professional about it and you say they weren't on time, you know, they were very nice, but they weren't on time.
Exactly.
And that's just been my experience with them. As opposed to, oh yeah, they sucked. I hated them so much, and they're ugly too, right? Like,
yeah,
that's just gonna tell the client, say more about you to the client than it is about the other person.
Well, that's the thing is because if you're saying that to a vendor that they're looking into, then maybe not instantly, but it's gonna make them think, well, what are they saying about me?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
It really reads into your personality and how professional you are.
And it's tricky too, because when you're talking with other wedding professionals, it's easy to slip into that.
It's so easy to slip into it, but
because
I try
you're like,
so hard
we're
not to.
We're in the club, right? We can talk.
we can talk.
Yeah. So, and with certain trusted professionals, I can be very real.
For
right?
sure.
But generally, you just want to be very careful because, again, if they're saying that about that person, what are they saying about me behind my back?
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're just a happy, positive person.
Exactly. Well, I think that's just the thing is, you know, ultimately it does read into who you are. And so, you know, you have to have some discretion with who you talk with about what. But ultimately, I think when you talk about other people, it's showing so much more about you than what you're saying about them. Yeah.
So I just thought about this, and I should have put it in the notes, but I had an experience in 2020 that was really unique. So they had hired a photographer through a company. It was one of those companies that just kind of like farms out photographers and videographers. And they hired this photographer that I found out later she didn't really have any experience in weddings. Mm-hmm. She had done like personal photo sessions and stuff like that. And they kind of had a bad experience with her before the wedding. At the wedding, it was like 10, 15 minutes before the wedding was supposed to start. And we're like, where's this photographer? Couldn't find her. And so then I just see this girl sitting with a nice camera. I'm like, are you the photographer? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, they're getting ready. Maybe you want to take some photos of them getting ready. Or she's like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay. So the photos after the wedding, like during the wedding, she did okay, right? Yeah. She wasn't great. She wasn't, in my opinion, she wasn't terrible, but she wasn't great. after the wedding, the photos were not up to the client standard. And they complained about her hardcore to the company that hired her. And afterwards, I was texting with her about getting photos or something. And she's like, yeah, they said really bad things about me and I just don't know what I did wrong. And at that moment I was like, okay, do I say something?
Yeah.
And so I emailed her and I said, listen, if you're up to it, I'm willing to share some feedback with you.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, I'd love to know. So I, as kindly as I could, but as honestly as possible, I said, here are the things that, I think you could have done better on. These are the things where you were missing the mark. These are the things that the client was upset about. Because generally clients don't share that with
for sure
you afterwards, unless you really screwed up. But
yeah.
And she was really grateful to hear that honest feedback. So I think that's another side of it that maybe isn't talked about, is sharing honest feedback with other people in a kind way, not complaining about what they did, but saying, hey, I noticed you did this. And I saw some of the people at the wedding kind of make a funny face when you did that. So maybe this is something you might want to look at in the future. Of course, you have to approach that really carefully.
You have to approach it very carefully.
But
at the same time, when you're talking about community over competition, it'd be so easy to look at that situation and be like, oh, well, she sucks. One less photographer in the area, But, helping build her up and say, hey, if you're willing, I'd love to chat with you and help guide you.
Yep.
And
I think, I don't know, I would love it if more people did that.
Yeah.
People will generally just say, that was awesome. You did a great job, man. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But what I want to know afterwards is like, what did I suck at? Because I don't know about you, but when I go home at night, I'm trying to fall asleep. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. And
1,000%.
I would love to know specifically, here are the things that I did wrong so that doesn't happen to me in the future.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention with trash talking is you never know who's in earshot.
That's true.
Like, I always am terrified. If I start to say anything slightly negative, I'm like, who's in earshot? Like, because for all you know, maybe they're in earshot. Like, hello, gut wrench. How horrible is that if they hear you talking? Or maybe they have a family member that's in earshot, or just, I don't know. You never know who's in earshot or who people know. I mean, you could have a client there that's like, oh, we hired this photographer. And they might just say, we hired this photographer. And if you're like, oh, that's a horrible photographer. What if it's their sister? Like, you don't know. So
you have no idea.
You have no idea who's in earshot and who people know. So
that would go downhill real fast. That's my sister.
Like, oh, awkward.
Yeah, I think community over competition, I've only seen good things from it.
Agreed.
I don't know that I've had, it's probably happened, but I have had some negative experiences by trying to put community first. But for the most part, it's been a positive thing. Yeah,
I think overall it's positive, Yeah.
So that's community over competition. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Top Secret Wedding Podcast.
Subscribe, rate, and review us, and we'll see you next time.